Hello, everyone. My name is Laksha from That STEM Girly, and welcome to the Everything You Need to Know to Ace the new SAT Math section masterclass here on YouTube. Before we get started, please take a moment to put your phone on mute, silence it, put it away, because we have a lot that we're talking about in this short five-part series, and it's going to cover, just like what the title says, everything you need to know. So that's going to be the structure, the content, and we're even going to be doing a lot of problem solving together in the next couple of parts here. So first I want to introduce myself. My name is Laksha Karanam. I'm the founder of That STEM Girly. I just finished my undergrad this past May in biomedical engineering, and I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in biomedical innovation and development, which will allow me to pursue a career in medical device product development. I'll be graduating with that degree in 2026. So I've been tutoring for a little bit over 5 years, both at the high school and college level. I've tutored private clients as well as group lessons in both math and science classes. So Algebra 1 all the way up through calculus, as well as college calculus and chemistry. And that STEM girly was really born out of my passion for teaching, but also for mentoring students who are going through the college admissions process. Just that entire process can be so stressful, and add on to that the stress of things like the SAT or taking hard math classes. So I just wanted that STEM girly to be a place where we could take a very straightforward and low stress approach to getting through high school in a way that will allow you to reach your goals and your dreams. So that is what I'm here for. That is what I'm passionate about. Hopefully this masterclass can help you out. If you're interested in following along the journey, following us on socials, or maybe booking a call for tutoring with me, go check out the link in the description box down below. I've included all of the details there. So, this masterclass, in this five-part masterclass, we're going to start by talking about the structure of the new SAT math section and the full SAT because it has recently been revamped as of 2025. Then we're going to be talking about the four main question types or content pillars covered on the SAT math exam. And we're going to be actually looking at problems from each of those four content pillars in the next four parts of this playlist. Then we're going to be talking about using the calculator in a strategic way and how we can use it to manage our time the most effectively. And lastly, I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite resources to continue your SAT math preparation, both some free and paid resources so you can make the most of your time and your money. I want to start by addressing three of the most common myths I've heard regarding the SAT exam. The first is that I have to take the SAT. You do not have to take the SAT. You have several options on your plate. The first is there is the ACT. That's the most straightforward. Other option is you can opt to take the ACT instead of the SAT. The SAT and ACT have slightly different structures as well as slightly different content levels. So the ACT has a science section, the SAT doesn't. They have slightly different learning objectives even in the sections that do overlap. So you can choose to take the SAT or ACT depending on which one you seem to be the most comfortable with and which one you are consistently scoring higher in. So those are some ways you can pick. The other thing to note, though, is that more and more programs are going test optional in today's world. So you can also do some research and pick some programs that are test optional and only apply to those. The second myth is that you have to do equally well on all of the sections on the exam. While it is true that your end goal should be to increase your score as much as possible on both sections, there are things like super scoring that a lot of programs do, which is where you take the highest subject score from one exam and then the highest subject score from another exam and add those together. That's your super score. So that will get you the highest score. So not necessarily the score you got in one single sitting, but for example, for the SAT, they have a rating section and a math section. So let's say you've got a 760 on the rating, but a 680 on the math in your first take. But your second take, you got a 650 on the reading, but a 780 on the math. You can take the 780 from the reading of your first take and the 780 of the math from your second take and put it together and get a much, much higher score Then if you didn't do that, you would get like a 1560, right? Even though you never got a 1560 in a single sitting. That's called super scoring. A lot of programs do that, so I would look into the rules when it comes to that. But even otherwise as well, you can prioritize which section is more important to you based on your career goals and what you want to do. So, for example, if you want to do something in STEM, science, engineering, math, coding, things like that, it's going to be more important to do well in the math section versus if you're interested in a career in government, politics, poli-sci, reading, English, any liberal arts subjects, then the reading comprehension section is going to be way more important for you. Again, that's not to say that both sections are not important. The goal is to get a high score. But again, you can kind of leverage things like super scoring to your benefit. And the third myth is that I won't get into college without an outstanding SAT score. This one is more to tell y'all that you don't need to stress out as much as you think you do. When I took the SAT, I really thought my score was average at best. It wasn't too great compared to what all of my friends were talking about. But when I actually looked up the percentile score for my year, turns out my score is actually in like the 92nd, 95th percentile in the nation. And so it's so easy to compare yourself to everyone that surrounds you in college, all the competition out there. So it's really important to keep your head on straight and know that you're actually doing a lot better than you think you are. And it's important to just don't be so stressed out about it. You're actually going to do better when you have less stress on your plate and you already do so many things as a high school student. So it's not worth wasting your time worrying about whether your score is good enough because it is good enough. Any education is a good education. So regardless of what college or program you're going to end up at, just your desire to go to college is going to push you really, really far. And you don't need to wrap yourself up in all of that competition. So that's just my PSA pep talk, you know. But I just think that's important to say because in so much of this, SAT prep community, I feel like it's just like, you're not doing well enough. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. There's contradictory information out there. So just do what works best for you. Whatever happens is what happens, and it's gonna be okay. All right. I'm done with the pep talk for now. All right, y'all, let's get into our main topic for this video, which is the structure of the SAT. As of March 2025, the College Board has completely revamped the format of the SAT, and these changes have rolled out gradually. I think they are now fully rolled out as of like May 2025 in the US. So they were first rolled out internationally, but now all students in the US as well are going to be taking this version of the exam. So here is exactly what changes they have made. First, the exam is now fully online. So you can either bring in your own device or it will be provided by the testing center, depending on the accommodations made. That's something that you would have to discuss with the testing center. The exam is also slightly shorter. It went from being around 3 hours to slightly over 2 hours. It is also adaptive, which is, in my opinion, the biggest and most significant change. We're going to be talking about what that means in just a little bit here. And on the math section specifically, you're going to find that a calculator is provided since the exam is fully online. They're just going to have a pop-up calculator, scientific calculator that you can use. You can still bring your own as long as they meet the requirements of the College Board, like always. However, if you don't have a calculator, you don't have to buy one. They're going to give you one on the online portal that you're going to take the exam on, so you don't need to worry about that. So here is the full structure of the SAT as a whole. So you start with the reading and writing section, which takes place over 64 minutes, 54 questions, split evenly into two parts. So here is where that adaptive thing comes in. So in the first half of the reading and writing section, you're going to see a mix of questions in what the College Board classifies as easy, medium, and hard questions. And depending on how you do on that first part, you're going to see that the questions either get easier or harder in your second part. And this is custom to you. So every person is going to have a different difficulty and a different set of questions on the second part of each section. right? So let's say you do really good on your first part, you're going to see harder questions on your second part. But if someone else did not so good on the first part of the reading writing, then they're going to see easier questions on the second part. That's what adaptive means. After you're done with the reading and writing section, there is a 10-minute break before you log on for the math section. The math section is 70 minutes, 44 questions, again, split equally between two adaptive parts. Like I said before, the calculator is provided. It is also permitted on both parts. So previously, we had a no calculator section and then a with calculator section. You can now use the calculator on both sections, which is why it's become increasingly important that we discuss the best way to strategically use your calculator to manage your time and make sure that you're getting accurate results. And we're going to be talking about that in the next part. You're also going to see a mixture of multiple choice and free response questions in the math section. Same as reading and writing, you're going to see a broad mix of what the College Board classifies as easy, medium, and difficult questions. And based on how you do, you're going to either see easier or harder questions show up on your second part. Um, Also a note, the reason why I say on what the College Board classifies as easy, medium, and hard is because they do have certain questions, question types. You can see how complex a question gets, and that is what determines the difficulty level. So in the next four parts, we're going to be doing a lot of problem solving. So just to let you know, the questions that are put on the worksheet would be classified as anywhere between easy to medium by the College Board based on the released questions. So, what are the actual topics, the content that is covered on the SAT math exam? It is split up into four main content pillars. Algebra, which covers 13 to 15 total questions out of the 44. Advanced math, which is going to make up another 13 to 15. Problem solving and data analysis, which makes up 5 to 7. And geometry and trig, which covers 5 to 7 questions on the exam. So again, this breakdown provides us with really key information that can help us make decisions when creating our study plan for the SAT. So generally, we would say choose your exam between SAT and ACT by taking a practice test. Once you've decided to stick to the SAT, take another practice test for the SAT to see which content pillars you're doing really well in and which you're struggling in. If you find that you perhaps are struggling equally between the four, or you're struggling in both algebra and geometry, for example, it will actually be better for you to prioritize studying algebra first because you're going to see way more questions related to algebra than you are about geometry. So that's kind of an example of how taking an initial assessment will really help you create a custom study plan. So now we're going to get into our problem solving session and we're going to see a bunch of examples in each of these four main content pillars. Those are going to be the next four videos in this masterclass playlist. So if you are ready to dive in, go ahead and go to the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.